just can't convince myself to look. Why can't I be strong in the place where you read your books? I just can't rely on happenstance. Didn't say goodbye before you died, I should've took that chance. But you'll never leave me, no, my heart is bleeding, and I know this feeling's not fleeting. Your hugs were the best thing, just wrapped up in your strength. I'd give up to be there right now. I just want you back, we all want that. I just wish that you hadn't forgotten. I hate this disease, I hate human beings. We fall apart before we get broken. I just can't believe you're not here with me. We should be out back sitting underneath that willow tree. You could talk and I'd be listening. I didn't take the time to read your mind before you forgot me. Okay. But you'll never leave me, no, my heart is bleeding, and I know this feeling's not fleeting. Your hugs were the best thing, just wrapped up in your strength. I'd give up to be there right now. I just want you back, we all want that. I just wish that you hadn't forgotten. I hate this disease, I hate human beings. We fall apart before we get broken. Lock myself in my room to listen to voices recorded. Don't walk outside to avoid being avoided. This feeling that comes with not having a purpose. If I find something soon, maybe I won't feel so worthless. I've always felt this rhythm, but I thought it'd be pointless. Playing music that's for rich folks, not a prophet of poignance. But pointless is a feeling that comes over me often. Though I keep going for a fear of not affording my own coffin. I know I sound sad, but I've got to be honest. It's soothing to me and it helps with my progress. If writing these songs helps me change, then I have to. Not even for me, but everyone that I matter to.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. It is Monday, May the 4th be with you. 2020. It is Ross with Schu Bros Unfiltered. I am here, of course, joined as always by my older, less attractive brother, Kyle. How are you tonight, Kyle?
I'm doing good, man. Had a long day of work, and now my wife's apparently got visitors over and she didn't tell me about. So, having fun, getting yelled at. Why aren't you, joining us for dinner? And I'm like, well, you didn't tell me you were having guests over, so I got an interview Monday night. It's what we do Monday night.
That's Mondays and Thursdays, man. Mondays and Thursdays. It's pretty common. So, hey, it was a pretty good weekend for me on my side. I actually got some stuff done, got some nice housework done. We talked about it Friday night. It was, it's with the coronavirus. It's been a little bit about just time to get some stuff done. Honey-do lists have gotten long, but we're getting it all fixed up and all ready to go. Other than that, what's going on in your world other than the Cowboys signing the Red Rocket?
I mean, my wife and I had our gender reveal Saturday. So we announced to the world and learned ourselves that we're having a little girl. So more than likely the name's going to be Cameron Elizabeth, but could also be Chandler Renee. She hasn't made her mind yet. I told her she gets to name the girls. I get to name the boys. It's the only way it's fair. As long, we get veto power, but yeah, we've already pretty much picked out our names. Now we just got to decide which one gets which. And then we went and visited my in-laws for the first time since the coronavirus started. Her stepfather was home for the first time in 3 months or a while. He'd been up in Michigan doing some work for a nuclear plant up there, part of his job, what he does. And then he got home. He's done with his work. He's done with his project. So they're home enjoying life again. We went and visited. And then we ended up selling my wife's car so that we can use that money to buy a bigger vehicle now that we're having a kid.
Time to upgrade, man.
Yep.
Time to get that. What is it? We're going Suburban. We going Expedition. We going foreign. What we doing?
Foreign Nissan Rogue is what she wants. So as long as we can
That's
find
a boxy
one,
little sucker.
yeah, as long as we can get something reasonable, that's what we're gonna do.
All right. Well, guys, we do have a very special guest coming on with us tonight. He is currently running for city council in the great state of Kentucky. He has worked on for Mitch McConnell in the past. And you know what? We're going to talk to him and find out why being a conservative is such a big deal to him, because he's a person that's been on Fox and Friends. He's been on Laura Ingraham, and he's a guy that, a lot of people wouldn't maybe assume that he's a conservative, but we're going to bring him on. We're going to find out why he's conservative. And guys, make sure when you talk, you got the chat, make sure you put all your questions for our guest in the chat. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button on the video so that our guest knows you appreciate him. Bringing him on in, Mr. Matt Handy. Matt, how are you today?
Good. Thank you guys for having me tonight.
All right. So, Matt, why don't you go ahead and just tell our listeners who you are, what you're doing, how you got to where you are now. And I guess we ought to say, since we have you, is happy belated birthday. Yesterday was your birthday, correct?
Thank you. That's right.
All right, so happy belated birthday. So why don't you just let our guests know who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it?
All right. So Matthew Handy from Hopkinsville, Kentucky, 22, and pretty much I'm currently running for Hopkinsville City Council, Ward 12, against a Democrat incumbent of 26 years. So, what prompted me to run was simple. I mean, we need a change, and we need leaders that are going to do more than just occupy a seat on the council. So that was the main reason why I decided to take the plunge and run for office. But aside from that, graduated from Christian County High School in 2017, attended Hopkinsville Community College, and acquired my associate's degree studying political science and business administration, and then decided I wanted to explore politics. So I took a gap year in between college and started interning on the Hill, and then landed a position with Senator McConnell's office and worked as the deputy liaison for his team, and done that for a little over 6 months, and then decided that it was time to do my own thing and run for office.
Now, what prompted you to take that step from being a member of someone's staff to, I want to do this myself?
I felt like I would be more effective, here in Hopkinsville. The job was in DC, so that would not only take me away from family and friends, but also away from the community that I've grown to know and love. So I said, as much of an honor it would be to serve on that staff, full time, I just felt like I had a purpose here in Hopkinsville and could be more effective here back home.
Well, I can definitely understand that, because I had run for Congress, the U.S. House District in Texas 11, when Mike Conaway announced his retirement. And, you just feel like if you can help the people that are directly around you, then that's the most good you can do. And so I can understand it. So let's talk a little bit about your incumbent, because you were telling me that your incumbent has been in this seat now for 25 years, correct?
Correct.
So is this? Would you call this a Bill Clinton Democrat? Is this a President Obama Democrat? Is this a AOC Democrat? What type of Democrat are you facing here? And then secondly, what do you think you can bring to this seat that's going to help the people that are directly being related to it?
So I think he is a mixture of Bill Clinton and Obama, in a nutshell. Um, Principle wise, I mean, respected around the community. Everybody likes him, but policy wise and principle wise, he's he's no good for our community. Simply put that way. But my campaign is strictly, young voices matter. So being a voice for the younger generations, people my age, 21 up, because our community is stagnant. We got a lot of people that graduate high school and then go off to college, and then they never come back to our community, and that says a lot. So there's a saying around here that our city's run by old money, and that shouldn't be. So if I'm elected, I would be the youngest candidate and youngest member to serve on the council. And so I think we can together, make our city the best version of itself possible. And so that's my message as I go campaigning.
Yeah, Ross and I have experienced that get old enough to get out and you get the hell out experience. We came from a very small community in Texas called Dime Box, and Ross ended up actually going to Giddings High School, and even then got the hell out of there as soon as he could. And a lot of it's due to the same kind of situation where it's old guard running the city, and they not really willing to bend or budge on anything. And you're seeing cities around it get bigger and better. Bastrop and Brenham both growing very quickly, and Giddings is just stagnating and not really growing any. And it has the potential, being on the intersection of two major highways in Texas, but it just, very little to no growth happening. You see a couple little things starting to pop up in here and there, but
Starbucks finally.
it's usually, yeah, we got Starbucks finally, but it's usually from the people with the old guard that are bringing that in, not the young people like Ross and myself bringing those things in. So it's, yeah, we understand that plight, trying to keep your community a community and not just a breeding ground for castaways.
Right.
So we talked about this a little bit earlier, and I guess it just is an interesting story. You grew up, with, let's say, a Democrat city councilman who's been on the council for 25 years. That means the area you live in probably votes Democratic fairly regularly then, if they've elected this man now this many times that he's served for that long. Did you grow up in a Democratic household, or have you grew up in a conservative household and just happened to maintain your conservativeness, or how does that work? Because a lot of people that are your age, I'm 31, Kyle's, we won't even say that number out loud. We kind of grew up in being conservative. We grew up with a conservative father. I remember sitting in the Bill Clinton impeachments. I remember I was 9 when Bill Clinton said the famous words, it depends on what your definition of is. And I remember at 9 going, that's pretty stupid. That's really stupid. But, not everybody grew up like that. What was the foundation of your conservative roots?
So let me first say I started in politics in 8th grade. So I served on, this was the first time I'd ever done anything political. I served on Mitt Romney's presidential campaign. And, looking back now, I regret that. But at the time, I thought he was great. I thought he was, the ideal candidate in some ways and facets. But to answer your question initially, no, I never imagined I'd get into politics. In fact, I grew up in a household that wasn't political at all. They didn't care, whether Democrat, Republican. So that wasn't, a deciding factor. But I would say my faith played a huge role in conservatism that led me to the Republican Party. Derek Wilburn, a guy from Colorado, had always penned, and he said, I didn't choose the Republican Party chose me. And so I can relate to that as it relates to, um, like I said, I wasn't into politics, but as I've done my research and actually served on a campaign, you know, a lot of things were brought to my attention that I just wasn't aware of. So I think when a lot of African Americans or minorities actually take the time to do their research, they find that they're pretty much conservative. We're taught to go to church every Sunday. We're taught to, believe in the basis of man and woman marriages. We're taught, to go against abortions. We're taught, you know, you go into any hood, sort of say the ghetto, there's not a single person without a gun. So we love our Second Amendment. We may not be vocal about it, but it's fundamental things like that that Black people generally have grown up around. And so I think every Black person, every minority is pretty much a conservative. They just may not outright say it.
And have you had any backlash from the Black community now that you've officially stated, I am a conservative, I'm a Republican? I know a lot of the gentlemen that we've had on in the past, when they came out as being a conservative, they got told they weren't invited to the cookout anymore. They were, this, that, or the other, different racial slurs, and just makes you really wonder how tolerant the tolerant left really is.
Yeah, so I've got my Black card revoked several times. Um, so the backlash is that it's there, but again, that comes from people not willing to challenge the norm. It comes from people not willing to do their own research. They're just, you know, programmed to think that we are Black people. We are to vote a certain way. But I will say this: back in 2018, I was kicked out of an Uber because of my MAGA hat, my "Make America Great Again" cap. And, I looked at the driver and he said to me, he said, Matthew, I can't do this ride. And, obviously I'm looking, I thought he was joking, but he cussed at me and he said, get the F out of my car. I'm not doing the ride. And so it's stuff like that that, really drives home the narrative that we live in a world now where we can be discriminated based on our mentality, based on our mind, the way we think. So, yeah, the Black community hasn't been too kind to me in some ways, but I keep pushing, and I go with them. I go to them with love. That's all I can do. And if I can just help somebody along the way, somebody that's like me, a young child that's lost in some ways, doesn't know where to turn, doesn't know what to do, then this journey's worth the while. So I don't really pay it any attention like I used to as far as the racial slurs and the trolls on Twitter and social media. But when I first started out, it did bother me. But now I just let it roll off.
So, would you say that it's worse from the African American community, or would you say it's worse from, say, like the progressive left, who thinks you should be in lockstep with them, who thinks you should be, oh, you're African American, you should vote for us and with us and for these policies, and how dare you not? Which would you say is the worse on that side?
Definitely the progressive left. I mean, the irony in that alone speaks for itself. I've got several friends that say, Matthew, you're a turncoat, or in layman's terms, you're a coon. And I said, you don't know how ironic that is coming from a white person. So it does hurt more so coming from, the progressive left and then our white counterparts than it would our own, only because we expect that from them. We expect, you know, um, divide within our own community. But when someone else comes in and says, uh, you're a racist, you're a turncoat, you're not Black anymore, you have no right to say that. So it does hurt in a different way coming from them.
Yeah, I imagine so. I mean, I couldn't imagine being in your shoes, to be honest with you. I, my political beliefs, my standing has always been fairly consistent. I mean, there's been times where I've grown to certain things. Like I used to be, I really didn't care about gay rights or stuff of that nature. It's like to me, it didn't matter. It's like it was what it was. I didn't really, I didn't have any dog in the fight. But then I got to know a few gay people, and I got to know that community, and I came to the point where I was like, okay, I believe that they should be allowed to do whatever they want to do. And it's just more of my constitutional freedom sort of background that more took over in that. It was like, it doesn't matter to me. It's not affecting my life. What does it matter if they get to do whatever they want to do? So, but because I'm a white male, people don't really question me on my stances. Now I might get called a racist. I might get called a homophobe or something of that nature because, I am, of this mindset, because that's what the liberal left loves to do. They love to label, but I can, point out like, look, I got this, and this in my family. I've got this, and this here. I'm obviously open and loving to everybody. If you get to know me for, more than a minute, you'll understand my heart. And, don't put a label on me just because you don't agree with me. So, I mean, I can turn around and do the same to you, but I don't, because I have a love for you in my heart as well, even though I don't really know you and even though you're trying to be evil towards me. So what has the reaction to people of your age been in your community with you running? Are they proud of you and getting behind you and really trying to get you elected, or are they kind of just ignoring you?
They have been standoffish for the most part, because they automatically associate me with the president. Now, I'm, a vocal supporter of our president, no shame in that. But that's been the sole reason why they've been so standoffish is they automatically say, oh, that's the guy, he, voted for Trump. He supports the president. So in that sense, they're, I guess, timid is the word I could use. And they're afraid to back me because then when they come out and say, oh, I support Matthew, um, I guess it's automatically assumed that they support the president too, or they're a diehard Republican, or so there's a negative connotation with myself and the Republican Party right now, and I mean that's all over the country. There's a divide, there's a shift going on, and I think really a lot of people now are afraid to back Republican candidates only because of the backlash they would receive. But I mean, several friends have texted me and said, "Oh, I support you, but I'm not gonna, announce it on, whatever." And that's the political climate right now. We have to kind of hide who we support when it shouldn't be.
So what would be your message to the people who think that? Okay, so let me give you an example. The other day, I was in a Twitter war with a guy that I'm a real friend with. He's a real hard leftist, and he was saying that the right owns the movements are movements of the right. And I said, no, these movements are not movements of the right. White nationalists are not owned, or they're not all right. A lot of them are proponents of big government and government funding and the government control of the economy and a lot of these other things. And then he tried to say, well, all of these shootings have been done by right-wing people. And it's no, again, that's a false narrative. These people are not all right-wing. The Las Vegas shooter, the Dayton, Ohio shooter, the Parkland shooter, all of those were leftist shooters. Even the shooter out in California was a leftist shooter. We've seen crazy people are crazy, right? And it doesn't really matter what their ideology. A lot of times their ideologies are very mixed because they're confused. They don't really know what they believe. They think so many different things. But so many people today are, like you said, scared to say, hey, I'm a Republican, because they think that saying, hey, I'm a Republican then associates you with the Proud Boys or the old version of the Ku Klux Klan, even though that was a humongously Democrat group, or a lot of other of these institutions or these groups that 99% of Republicans denounce these people and think they're nuts, but because they use some far right imagery and they've now become the far right, we supposedly own this attitude. Racism is supposedly owned by the right. So what would you say to your friends, to the people your age, or the people of your generation about that, to say, okay, that's not necessarily the truth?
Here locally, what I've been saying is, Donald Trump's not running for Hopkinsville City Council. I am. So, what goes on in our nation's capital has nothing to do with us. And I mean, it just boils down to that. My focus is solely local. Lowering taxes, making sure there's no more tax increases, getting mentorship programs established, advocating for our small businesses, things like that. That's what I'm focused on. But on a larger scale, trying to defeat that narrative that we're all alt right, as they say. I would just say that there's extremists in every group. I mean, you've got extremists in Black Lives Matter, whatever. Every organization, every group of people, there's going to be extremists. So we can't automatically associate the Republican Party with, as you said, the Proud Boys or all those others. But again, that's a difficult thing to do, only because we're so driven to negative. So in a way, I don't have an answer to that, only to say um, we've got to kill them with kindness.
I mean, you can point to yourself, be like, obviously, I'm not a member of the Proud Boys, and
That's
I
right.
that I'm not a racist. I'm just here trying to represent you here locally. Now, what are some of the things that you've done to get your name out there? What kind of campaign strategies have you been enacting to try to get your name out there and try to, garner the vote of your local constituents?
So I've been doing a lot of social media things, campaign videos, promotional kind of things, partnering with some of our nonprofit organizations here, during this crisis, especially making sure that they have essential goods that they need in order to be, passed out to our community members. Um, and as far as that, obviously the old running radio ads, paper, ads. But my focus has solely been, for the most part now, giving back to the community and, trying to help, especially our elderly folks, making sure that they have all the, their essential needs. But as we progress, we'll do some canvassing, we'll do some door knocking. We're going to hit the ground running as soon as we can.
So where are you guys in the process here of this election? I mean, has there been a primary in Kentucky already? Is there a primary for your seat, or are you the only person on this GOP side running? I mean, when is it the general election in November? Is that when this election take place? Is it a different date that this election take place? What's our deadlines here? What are we looking at?
So I will be on the November ballot, so the general election. Our primary actually got pushed to June, but luckily for me, I'm not, primaried. Only GOP candidate running for that seat, so I'll go straight to the general in November. So I do have some time, but as they say, as Mitch McConnell would say, it's not enough time. But we're doing the best that we can. We're optimistic. We're positive, and the numbers look good. Feedback is great for the most part. So the biggest thing is showing up, to events that they have. Back before this coronavirus ordeal, there were several events that were key events, and so I was the only person there. My opponent was not. So things like that. So showing up when I need to be there, being accessible to folks. Small stuff is what wins an election. It's not the big stuff. So making sure I'm there for the most important, yet to some folks, small things.
And have you gotten any endorsements, such as from your former boss, Mitch McConnell, or any other key Republicans there in the state, or are you kind of floating at this point?
So I've gotten several endorsements, not one from Senator McConnell yet. I'll say, yet, but Congressman Mike Bost out of Illinois, who I interned for on the Hill in 2018, endorsed me. Um, Congressman Drew Ferguson out of Georgia, who I'm close friends with, endorsed me. Congressman James Comer here in Kentucky endorsed me. Several Kentucky state representatives. Daniel Cameron, our Attorney General here in Kentucky, who worked closely with Senator McConnell, endorsed me not too long ago. So we're racking in endorsements. Joy Villa, the singer, and the lady that's known to wear those dresses to the Grammys, she's a close friend of mine, endorsed me. So we're racking them in. And the biggest one yet, though, has been Corey Lewandowski, who we'd exchanged contact info last summer in DC. And just out of the blue, he reached out to me, and I said, I'm running for city council. And he's like, whatever you need, you got it. I've got you. So that's been the biggest one yet.
So now let's talk a little bit more about what makes you the politician that you are. So let's talk a little bit about your beliefs, and let's dig down into a little bit about your core beliefs. So let's I guess where do you stand on some of today's hot button issues? Would you call yourself a Thomas Massey Republican? Would you call yourself more of a Donald Trump Republican, more of a Bush Republican? Where do you feel that you fit on that political spectrum?
So I would say I'm a little old school, a Ronald Reagan Republican, as far as a traditionalist, being a traditionalist who believes in the old school way of politics. Don't get me wrong, what President Trump done, it got him the election, he won, but, I was a little hesitant at first only because that's not what I'm used to, dealing with, or that's not my accustomed way of doing certain things. But definitely an older, uh, seasoned, I would say, Republican in the sense that I'm a modern day Flint Republican conservative. That simply means, you believe in the basis of free enterprise, liberties, limited government, individual liberties, trade, national defense. So, in those ways, I consider myself to be a traditional Republican.
Now, Ross brought up the hot topic items, but then didn't actually name any. So I'm going to take the liberty and go ahead and name a few just to get your thoughts on them. The first being the unfortunate topic that we have to discuss, which, breaks my heart, but abortion. And then the second being gun rights. Where do you stand on those two things?
So abortion, I'm pretty clear on that as being pro-life. Um, that's just all across the board. With some people say with exceptions. I do believe that there should be obviously rape and incest. I mean, um, or if the mother's life is in jeopardy. But just because you made a choice to have sex, I mean, that gives you no right to get rid of that baby. So here in Kentucky, especially, we have certain things in place as far as the heartbeat bill, which the moment they detect a heartbeat, can't go through with an abortion. That was a big one passed last year under Governor Bevin. So we're in the right direction, but now that we've got Andy Beshear in the office, we're trying to slowly take a few steps back. But hopefully the House and the Senate, gets that under grips, and they overturn all of the leftist propaganda that he's spewing right now. But pro-life all across the board. The Second Amendment right, our gun rights. I couldn't be a stronger advocate for that. In fact, here in Kentucky, we've got United Kentucky, which is a group of veterans, current military personnel, and just anybody in general that owns a firearm. They go to the Capitol once a week, and they march and they protest. They're going to stand strong, and so I vocally support them. I've actually endorsed their movement. It's called Kentucky United, and with those folks, and then our uh, sheriff here in Christian County, who's been a vocal supporter of this group too. uh, I don't see our rights being infringed here in Hopkinsville or Kentucky for that matter.
So you mentioned earlier that you're against raising taxes, and I appreciate that. So my background is in economics. I'm that's where I come from. That's so fiscal policy, monetary policy is a big deal to me. Would you? Your video went up in the air for a second there. We okay. Now you come back down.
Oh,
So we saw your ceiling fan there for a minute. Um, when it comes to fiscal monetary policy, and I know on a local level, city council, it's going to be much different, but still, I mean, we're talking about cities and towns that don't have a lot of extra money to deal with a lot of times, that are usually running very tight budgets, that are stretched to the limit, but yet, like you mentioned earlier, there is need for economic development. There is need sometimes to put some money into the economy and actually help bring businesses in by offering some benefits. So where do you stand in on the fiscal side of things? Are you a balanced budget guy? Are you more like Trump, where hey, spend and invest where needed? What do you think is the middle ground there?
I think balancing budget um, here locally. We've had some things take place as far as taxes being raised um, every time you turn around. So it's certain things like that that should not be, and it's practically because we don't know how to budget. Uh, so I'll give you one instance here. We just recently passed a wins proposal, Hopkinsville Wins, and it's a great initiative. We got a multi-million-dollar sportsplex, several things in this plan, but nobody asked the key reason or the key question, and that's how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to fund this? And so, of course, taxpayers took a huge hit. And then on top of that, a 4.5 uh, uh, increase on utilities and sewage, and then you turn around a month later and they're asking for a nickel tax increase for our school system. So I mean, every year you get a tax increase; it's inevitable. But every year that increase becomes two or three or four, and so I think there is a common ground here, and that is to get rid of the wasteful spending and stop giving, elected officials pay raises. Because every year for the last 6, 7 years, they've gotten pay raises out of the world. So, I mean, it's little things like that that should not be. And we don't have a lot of people asking questions. So I'm probably one of the few, myself and maybe two or three others, that have really pressed this issue of accountability and transparency.
And educate the watchers who are watching. Uh, is Kentucky a state income tax state, or is it a sales tax state, or is it a combination thereof?
We are a sales tax. So I think it was last I checked, 6%. So it's they're wanting to move us more.
I think we lost Matt for a minute. Let's see. We'll see if he can come back in here in a second. Um, so I mean, I think what Matt's saying, there's a lot of good to what Matt's saying. I mean, we need to understand how these policies affect at the local level too, because it's not just the national policies that affect us. It is the local policies that affect us. It is the local cities and municipalities that are going to impact somebody's lives. And I think Matt's got a great idea there of starting at the bottom and working your way up from there, and seeing how we can get to a better policy that fits the needs of the people in your area.
Exactly. It's one of those things where people don't pay attention to the local elections as much, but their day-to-day life is actually significantly impacted by that level of government, much more so than it would ever be by the state and federal government, because that's what enforces, you know, property taxes. That's what enforces utility taxes. That's where your law enforcement policy comes from. That's where you get stuff like a curfew or something of that nature comes from. That's not being handed down from the state level or even the federal level. That's there at your local municipality that's enforcing those. And the only way to really truly be free of that is either A, have a voice in it and help shape the narrative, or B, move out into the country where it doesn't exist. But not everyone's meant for country life, and not everyone's meant for city life.
Well,
So
and some of these policies
you've
are
got to
even,
make that decision for
even these
yourself.
policies are starting to migrate into the country life. In our home county, it used to be that if you built a house and you had more than 10 acres, you could pretty much do whatever the hell you wanted. You could put in whatever type of septic system you thought was necessary. It was your land. You could do what you want with it. But now they're finding ways to create rules on what people can do and how they can handle their own business and their own time and their own things. And what it really does is it just makes it more frustrating for the end user. It's like, my house here. I have to go get a city permit to put in a storage shed, which, I mean, it's not a permanent structure. It's something that we would be able to get rid of if necessary, but I have to get a city permit. So Matt is back with us. So Matt,
Sorry,
that's fine. You're probably on a certain satellite internet company, and we know who's been screwing that up lately. So
Probably my competitor.
probably your competitor. That's right. Although you supply your competitor, so.
No, they have their own bird.
All right. Anyway, so Matt, we were discussing while you were out for a minute. We were discussing how much effect local policies have on an individual's lives, because a lot of people don't understand that these local elections really do set the rules for how they're going to live their lives. Whether that means, in a city, whether that means you have to get certain permits, what taxes you're going to pay, how many taxes you're going to pay. Because, like, my house, and I shouldn't say this out loud probably, but we live in this magical little spot in the town where two of the tax districts don't overlap here. And so we just don't pay those taxes. So my neighbors one block away either way pay a significant more amount in taxes every year just because they have to pay these other taxes that I'm not having to pay because they don't quite make it to here. And so when I was looking for my house, it very much so was something where it was like, oh, wait, this house only has that much property taxes. Okay, let's go. That makes that a better option. So explain to our listeners, in your view, what city council, how much of an effect that's going to have on the people in your area's life, and explain how some of your policy, how some of your ideas are going to benefit those people in your area and help them.
Yeah, so you actually hit the nail on the head. I mean, local politics, local policies affect life as we know it. And I've had, especially now that I've actually got to experience campaigning for myself, that is, I've noticed that a lot of folks actually skip local elections. Why? That's a question that I don't have the answer to. But a lot of folks find themselves sitting out on local elections and for the excuse that, oh, it really doesn't matter who's in office. I really could care less. It doesn't affect me. But you start digging through this, whether that's tax increases or zonings or little things like pipelines and things like that, sidewalks, stuff like that, the smallest stuff that actually builds a community and, impacts a community as we know it, that happens locally. Potholes in the street, that kind of stuff, that's what we have to face every day. And so you either have the option to vote for someone that is more so a tax and spend, or you've got somebody that's wanting to rebuild this, city as we know it. So it is important that you vote locally. It's imperative that you do so because it sets the tone for how you live. And my focus is, as I've said, small businesses have a keen interest for me. So finding incentives for small business owners because right now we tax the hell out of them and they have no incentives. They have no reason to stay. So I can count on one hand how many, locally owned businesses we have and that have stayed here for more than a year. So, they come in and they're strong. They start off strong. And within the next 2 or 3 months, they've just been taxed to death and they have to close their doors. So, finding incentives for them and lowering the taxes would be beneficial for our small business owners. Another program that I want to initiate is a mentorship program for our youth. Give them some sense of accountability, give them some sense of reason, because right now we only focus on star athletes or the next big football player or whoever, but we're not actually spending time with these students and our youth. We're not educating them. We're just if they can make a basket, they're good enough. But there's so much more to it, and we're losing our youth because of that. So tailoring a mentorship for our youth, finding ways to combat our homeless crisis. We do have quite a few number of homeless people here. Our shelters can only do so much, and we really need to start working with our shelters. So those are my key principles and some of the proposals that I have right now.
Now, I know one of the things that Texas has done to really help bring in more industry has been to, and local municipalities as well within Texas, has been to offer tax breaks and tax incentives to different companies in order to then entice them to come to their area. Like I know Viasat, brought themselves to Bryan College Station because they got a tax break. They built a brand new building. Wayfair did the same thing out on University west of town or east of town, and a lot of different corporations and businesses have been given that that tax break in order to get a foothold in the city and then allow them to grow to the point where they can then afford to pay the taxes once they get to that certain age point. Are you a proponent of anything of that nature, or is that something that you're going to propose to your fellow city council members and then go out and actively look for corporations and businesses and small business owners to take over or take advantage of those policies?
Absolutely, and I will tell you this: they started that. They started that process maybe 4 years ago, and just got nowhere with it. I mean, it just kind of fell off. So yeah, that is something that I'm very interested in. And in fact, in 2017, we had the big solar eclipse. So here in Hopkinsville, we were the point of totality, and so that drove a lot of folks in from all over. And right before that, so maybe 2 or 3 months prior to August 21st, we started seeing, the new construction of a mall. So we got maybe 4 or 5 different stores within this strip mall, because before that we had nothing. We didn't have a mall at all. We had a J.C. Penney's and a Peebles. That was it. So right before the eclipse, like I said, we got a strip mall with 4 or 5 different stores, and that was great. But we need more. So they did get the ball rolling on that, and I want to kind of pick that up and see where we can take it.
So now we've seen a congressional mandate come out lately, which is Senator Tim Scott introduced the Opportunity Zones initiative, where they're going into communities kind of like yours, and they're offering these incentive packages from Congress for local small owned businesses, for different groups of people to have an opportunity to start a business, to run a business, and other things like that. Do you think that's something in your area where there could be more of that they could take a better advantage of that kind of thing, or do you think it's more needing to come directly off the local government, where the city council needs to be more involved in the economic development of the area?
I think if the city council were involved, we wouldn't have to go that route. But sadly, they're not. They're so disengaged. So at this point, I would say, yes, that's a great opportunity. That's a great program, actually. And I think that we do need to adopt that. And the hardest point would be, though, is getting that actually through to our city officials. Because, as I've said, we're stuck in old ways. Old money runs the town, as they say. So that's going to be the most difficult part, is getting everybody on board, especially those that have been here for a while, all their life, grew up here. This is all they know. It's sad that we have to drive 45 minutes to an hour to a mall for, to get a decent pair of shoes or a nice outfit. So something needs to be done. But I don't have any faith in this current administration right now.
And have you gone to some of the local business owners as well as the police department and fire departments and talked to their leaders and found out what it is that they really are needing at this time and see what you can do to help incorporate those issues into your policies? Is that something you've thought about or something you've already done?
So I have been, talking to a few small business owners, and their main concern is stressing the fact that we need to shop local. It's great that we have these small business owners. It's great that we have these stores, but they can't stay open if folks aren't shopping. So we've adopted a shop small Saturday ordeal where we strictly promote shopping local, supporting local businesses and franchises. So one in particular here is um, a art gallery. So she does a great job with her stuff, her merchandising stuff. So getting folks in there to buy, Hopkinsville merchandise, paintings and mugs and stuff like that. So Shop Small Saturday, like I said, that was something we adopted. Little programs like that is what they're needing, because promotion is great, it's everything. But our city, like I said, is so disengaged. We'd rather drive 45 minutes than to, support a local business, when that should not be. So we need to really prop these small business owners up and support them in any way we can. And, it's the younger folks that we're trying to reach here. The younger folks are the ones going, to Nashville or Clarksville, Tennessee. And the older folks, they like to stay here, they like to stay home. But, so we got to come find a sense of, I guess, losing my train of thought here, but a sense of community would be the word, because we don't support one another. So we have to support our small businesses, and incentives like that, shop small, doing promotional gigs for these business owners, stuff like that would help a lot.
So now with y'all's proximity to Fort Campbell, because y'all are pretty much right down the road from Fort Campbell. Um, what is the opportunity to bring in like some veterans into the area that could then start businesses? And I know certain veterans then get some preferential treatment from like the SBA or other loan programs. And is there anything your city is currently doing, or do you think there's anything your city could be doing to further incentivize those veterans to not only stay in the area, who maybe aren't originally from the area, but they had come in to, because of Fort Campbell and had been in the area and decided to stay. So is there anything that y'all are doing to incentivize those guys to maybe start businesses or do things like that, or is there anything you could be doing?
So the answer to that question, I was just talking to a friend the other day. We do not have any incentives for our veterans or military personnel. And so that's part of the reason why they have migrated now to Clarksville, Tennessee, which is on the other side of Fort Campbell. So they really don't have any dealings here in Hopkinsville, only because we don't welcome them. We're not, with open arms. We're not accepting of them, and so we lose them to Clarksville or even some in Nashville, because there is no incentives. We don't, have anything for them, and that's a sad thing. But our Chamber of Commerce, who has, the Veterans Affairs committees and stuff like that, have been so out of touch with these folks that it's ridiculous. So as much as I would love to see our veterans come in and, start small businesses and even, stay here, live here in our communities, I just don't see that happening only because, we're not making that a priority.
Now, I hate to bring this up, but let's say you don't win the seat come November. What are your plans to help out your local community if you don't win? Are there become active in community involvement? God, Lord, I'm thinking of the word, committees and stuff of that nature, or is it all or bust? And then I'm chunking deuce if I don't win.
So Mitch McConnell told me, um, don't think that you're going to lose, prepare to win. So I've been preparing myself to win this election, and I haven't thought about, the possibilities of what if, because as of right now, that what if doesn't exist to me. So I'm tailoring my focus to winning this election. But, if the possibility that I lose, then we start over, we do something else. But we're determined to win this, and we feel pretty good about it.
I like that thinking. Stay positive, man. We will boost you over here as much as we can.
So
I appreciate
so
it.
let's. I guess I want to hear your campaign spiel. I want to hear what you're telling all those people in Hopkinsville and what you're saying to them about why they need to vote for you. And I kind of just want to hear you give us that pep speech of why you are the correct person for this job, regardless of whether you're Republican, Democrat, whatever. What is that pep speech when you see people in public that you give the people that you're talking to?
AKA an elevator speech.
Elevator speech, yeah. I just, I simply say, as new problems arise within our communities, we need a newer perspective. We need somebody new. We need new ideas. We need, fresh faces. And with this current administration, with the current occupant on this council, we don't have that. We don't have the representation that we desperately need. You know, he gets this individual has been in this seat for 25 years, so he's become accustomed to this seat, and he's not actually working for the good of his constituents. In fact, he does not even reside in our ward. So you need somebody that is going to be accessible, transparent, reliable, and somebody that actually lives in our community. Somebody knows that we what we face on a day-to-day basis. I mean, he would know that you've got a pothole right outside your door because he doesn't live in this area. He's not in touch with his community. So, the plea is simple. If you want good representation, a solid voice of reason, and a cheerleader and an advocate for you, I'm the person that you vote for.
Very well said, sir. Very well said.
Yeah, I gotta say I like that. That's
Ross, I can't hear you.
Oh, hold on. Okay. Can you hear me now? All right. So very
Yes.
well said. So I mean, let's just have a quick question and answer session, and we'll kind of we're gonna kind of just try to deviate the line and figure out exactly where you sit. So I'm gonna ask a topic. You're gonna say yes or no. Kyle's gonna ask a topic, and we're just gonna do this for a minute or two, just to kind of get an idea, a little bit better idea of exactly where you sit. So the first thing I'm gonna say is mandatory vaccinations.
No, it's awful. No,
Okay.
School uniforms.
no,
Homosexual marriage.
no.
Obama.
Absolutely
That's
not.
not really a topic there, Kyle. That's a
It
subject.
is too.
I mean, okay. All right.
He was a topic for 8 years. Come on, and he still is making documentaries on Netflix. Come
That's
on.
Michelle.
He's trending on Twitter right now
That's
too.
that's
So
Michelle. That's Michelle. Okay.
Is she still in Obama?
All right. Reciprocal concealed carry. So where your one concealed carry permit in Texas means I can go to any state and concealed carry.
Yes.
45 or 9 mil.
There you
45.
go. That's the right answer. That's the only correct answer to that question. If you're a 9 mil advocate, your avocation is always for the larger carrying capacity. But Springfield Armory makes the XD, which eliminates that argument. Carrying capacity is the same in a 45 and a 9. Hit them with a stopping power. Hit them with a stopping power. All right. Well, very good. I mean, Matt, I want to thank you for coming on. I think, you're a really good candidate for 22 years old. I can't imagine that at 22 I would have been anywhere ready to run a campaign at any level. At 22, I was still flipping off everybody in my hometown, telling them to go suck a lemon because they kept telling me I couldn't do stuff. So I definitely wasn't going to win a city council seat, let alone, that they were trying to throw me in jail at that point. So that's, more to anything.
You got to pay your speeding tickets, Ross.
No, I just do it where they think it's you, and then they charge them to you. Remember, that's how I do that.
Yeah, you got me good a few times. Texas A&M, where I went to university, they would if they found a vehicle in the parking lot that wasn't supposed to be there or didn't have a tag, they would run the plates and run it back to whoever they could. So because he was a Schumann and I was a Schumann and we were from the same household, I would get parking tickets and I'd just be like,
and he couldn't.
Where did I get this from? It's not even my vehicle.
And he couldn't graduate if he didn't pay him. That was the best part. So they couldn't come after me. I'm not in their jurisdiction. They don't have anything to hold over me. So they'd go after him, which was perfect.
That's clever. Smart.
There you go. So
he did it a lot too.
Yeah. Hey, had to park, man. So Matt, I mean, is there anything that we needed to know, or that your potential constituents who might be watching this, is there anything they need to know about you that we haven't touched on so far? I mean, I felt like we've gone over quite a bit, other than Kyle's questions, but we've gone over quite a bit. But surely there's something that they need to know that we haven't talked about.
I would say, I am still new to this. This is a new experience for me, running for city council, running for office. But I am determined to fight for them in every way possible. I'm not a politician. I'm just someone that enjoys helping others in any way possible. So I don't say the right things all the time. I may not do everything right, but I'm somebody that truly cares for our community and the people, and I'm going to fight for them tooth and nail.
So I luckily can tell you what you do when you lose an election. You grow a really big beard and you start a podcast. That's what you do when you lose an election. That's how we are to where we are today.
I got you. Noted.
So,
but I don't think I can grow a beard. I mean, I've just got a little bit, so I'm struggling with this.
There you go. Well, they make some stuff in Kentucky. I've been told will put some hair on your chin. So go over there and get you a bottle.
I might be drinking something from Bowling Green right now.
And on your chest. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
So Matt, I want to thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us. And good luck to you, man. We hope to hear good things from you. Make sure you let us know. And you know what? When you win, you come on back and we'll have a big old celebration for you. We'll partake of some Kentucky spirits on that night. Okay, sir?
That sounds good. And I want to commend you too. Thank you for this. Thank you for the opportunity. And you guys are doing an awesome job.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
All right, Matt, if anyone wants to follow you on social media or make a donation to your campaign, how could they do so?
So you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Matthew_Handy. Facebook is Matthew Handy for City Council. And here's a side piece. I'm not actually taking donations for this campaign. This campaign is, fully me. And, I am doing all that I can. Like I said, I've had several notable people endorse me, but not once have I took a cent. I've not taken a penny from anybody. So no donations, prayers, positive thoughts, positive vibes.
So with that being said, guys, if you know anybody in the Hopkinsville area, make sure you reach out to them. Let them know about Matt. Let them know that he's there. Like he said, sometimes, I can tell you for a young candidate who it's all about just getting your name into the sphere, letting people know that you even exist and that you're running for the seat. When I ran, nobody, if I didn't go shake their hand and say, hey, I'm running for Congress, they had no clue who I was. So that outreach means a lot. And getting somebody, if you know somebody in the area who can call somebody else in the area and, 5 points of separation to get to, hey, this is a gentleman that's running for this seat and I think he'd do a really good job for you guys. Definitely do that, and make sure you let those people know. Matt, again, thank you so much for your time tonight. We'll let you go. We'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening there in Kentucky. And you know what? Again, good luck to you, sir.
And happy belated birthday.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you, sir. You have a nice evening, both of you.
Thank you.
So, Kyle, let's talk a little bit more tonight. I mean, Matt, I think, seems like a great candidate, and he seems like somebody who hopefully this is just a foot to get him to the next place. This is just the start of his chances at a great career in politics. What do you think?
I think he's very well spoken, very well polished. I was very surprised by how, the fact that he's 22, he could have passed for a 30, 35-year-old easy with the way he talked, the eloquency that he had, and the polish and the pose that he had, the poise that he had. Very, very impressed by him, and I think he's got a bright future.
I'm going to agree with you. I think he's got an opportunity to do something here if he can win this seat. I think he's got a good shot at it. It sounds like he's making headway in the community. It sounds like there's starting to be some recognition for him, and hopefully that continues. Hopefully that gets better and better and better. But, it's always an uphill battle, I can tell you. It's about that name recognition. It's about getting started. It's about getting where you are. So, let's talk just for a second about what's going on in your neck of the woods with coronavirus, because the state order, the stay-at-home order in Texas officially ended May 1st at midnight. So we are out of the stay-at-home order. We are now into regular, what is it, 25%? Phase one is 25% of businesses and retail space and restaurants are open for casual dining. So what's going on in Bryan? What's the biggest changes you've seen to date?
So a lot more traffic, a lot more people out and about, a lot of people just enjoying life again and not being cooped up in their houses. Gas prices starting to creep back up, which is good for the economy. Not good for my wallet, but good for the economy. And just, things starting to go back to normal, starting to finally feel like real life. Although the CDC or whoever it was decided to pack 3, 4, 5 days worth of data into one right before we opened to try to scare everybody right back into their houses. So you do have some people who are going, look, we had the worst day since. And I'm just like, you got to look at the real data. They packed all that into one day to try to scare you, and it worked. You got to look past the bullshit and look for the reality. And unfortunately, there's just so many people who are so engrossed with the bullshit that they can't see through the weeds, can't see the forest for the trees,
But my biggest observation was, and we saw it today from the New York Times, they released an article where they were almost vehemently pissed off that Florida has not had a larger spike in cases. And they say, oh, well, Florida's just lucky. It's just lucky that Florida has been able to avoid these cases. It's not luck. It's looking at the actual data and understanding that in areas of warmer temperature, the virus has less likelihood of spreading. That younger generations have less likelihood of catching it or being severely impacted by it. So when we look at who's out on the Florida beaches, there is a large elderly population in Florida, but they're not out at the beaches every day. They're not the ones down in Miami or down in Fort Lauderdale or even Orlando that are out partying on the beaches. They're more inland, more up north part of the state. They're enjoying their lives, but they're not out and about quite as much. And I think in Texas, you're going to see largely the same thing. Now, here in Midland, the biggest difference I've seen is that most of the stores are fully open again, which means no waiting in lines, no having to. Now, they're still recommending and asking you to practice social distancing, which is, hey, that's perfectly fine. I have no problem standing 6 feet away from somebody in a checkout line if it means that the likelihood of this or any other virus is going to be diminished. You're starting to see a segment of the population that still continues to wear their masks. Of course, there's people out and about who are not wearing their masks, but there are people who still feel like that is what they need to be safe. And for those people, if that's how you feel, if you feel that that's going to help you and that's going to make your life better, then I don't have a problem with it. You're not affecting me by wearing your mask. So those are the big difference I'm seeing here so far. I think hopefully barber shops will be open here soon because, I mean, I don't really know what to do with this anymore. I gotta.
Get all off. Go bald again. I mean, you're already mostly there anyway. You might as well just
I actually
take it.
So my hair receded to this point about 5 years ago, and it's kind of just stagnated here. It really hasn't gone any further. So I don't know that I don't know how much more bald I'll go in the future, because of course I probably will. But at probably tomorrow it'll start instantly getting more progressively bald. But at the moment, my hair has stagnated, but of course I'm not cutting it as short, and I take better care of it.
Well, I mean, that's small steps help out a lot, but I think you just be fine just going bald. Let your wife just go and have at it and save you some money and don't have to go to the barbershop, especially with number 6 on the way. Y'all need to be saving money wherever you can. And, that's one small thing that y'all can do to save $30-40 a month or so. I mean, it helps.
So what I do is when I get a haircut, I get it cut. I get it cut way back. And then I usually go about a month and a half, 2 months between haircuts. So I do like getting it. I do like getting it professionally cut, but I'll let it grow out fairly long. Not typically this long, and especially the beard. The beard is getting longer than I initially anticipated it would ever get. But it's starting to get pretty scraggly. If I turn sideways, you can see it's actually starting to get the point to it. So, there's a lot of other great stuff going on right now in the world. There's a lot of other really good things that are happening. And hopefully, we saw oil prices jump a little bit today because we saw that, maybe we have a little more storage than we thought. Our storage capacity, we didn't quite get as close to being completely full as we thought we would be. We're seeing that the demand for oil and gas is starting to come back just a little bit, which means that, as you said, more traffic means more cars, means more fuel, means more gasoline being used, which means that's going to help reduce the amount of what we have left in the reserves, and that's going to put us in a better position for oil and gas futures.
I got an email, I think it was an email today from Carnival saying that they're going to actually start going back cruising here soon. So, we're trying to convince family members that, hey, sign for a family cruise. They're probably dirt cheap right now. Just leave Ross out. We don't need him.
Well, that's y'all's typical MO, right? Is go on family vacations and don't take me.
You just decided not
so
to show up.
It's like everything else. When you invite somebody, but you invite them when you know they can't go, is it really an invitation, or is it just, well, we did invite you?
You were invited.
It's like
you were even booked.
It's like
you canceled within the month, and they cost Mom money because you canceled within the 30 days.
She had insurance on it. She got all her money back because we told her from the very get-go that we probably weren't going to be able to go, and she said, "Oh well, I'll book you anyway in case you can." And then she said, "Well, I'll put insurance on it, and that way if you guys cancel, I'm just out the money that I paid for the insurance." So to you. So, other than that, you wouldn't catch me dead on a Carnival cruise right now. I mean, well, you probably would catch me dead on a Carnival cruise right now. But I like we're planning a trip, probably maybe to Big Bend National Park once it reopens or something like that.
Should be. State parks are open at this point.
Big Bend's a national park, not a state park.
Okay, my bad.
So,
my bad.
Yeah,
I thought it was a state park.
Big Bend's a national park, so there's that.
I ain't never been, so I wouldn't.
Yeah, and so from where I live, Big Bend's not actually that much of a drive. It's only about 4 hours. So I drive. Well, you got to remember, 4 hours out here.
There's ain't much out there.
Yeah, 4 hours out here is just a trip to Walmart, man. That's just a normal everyday excursion. I drive 2 to 3 hours almost any given day that I go out into the field to do anything to get to whatever location. I had a location this morning that was about 10 minutes from the shop, and it was like, what? I don't understand this. This does not compute. And I'm like, well, normally I'd have somewhere to stop and get a meal, so I had to like go out of my way to get food. And it was like, oh, well, I really probably shouldn't be driving over here to get food, but then this is the only restaurant closed. And normally I'd have a restaurant on the way somewhere I could stop and get, some snacks or whatever. But, it is what it is. But, the good news is it looks like there's at least a leveling in the oil and gas industry. I'm hoping that we're going to hit a plateau here where we can at least stay stagnant for a little while. We're really still expecting middle of 2021 before we see it come back in a way that is sufficient. But we're hoping that at least the worst is behind us, the negative priced oil, that if we can stay in the $25, $30 a barrel range, we can at least stay in business and keep some people afloat and keep some people working.
Yeah, that would be very good for everybody if that comes about.
I would prefer not to lose my job. Yeah, that's preferable.
We prefer you not to lose your job with 6 kids either. Yeah, that would be bad.
The alternative to that is not great.
Especially since you just bought a house.
That
would not be good.
Literally made the first payment, and then it was like...
Yeah, shit timing, buddy.
Yeah. So other than that, man, it's been a good week. We want to thank Matt for coming on and thank him for spending so much time with us. If you are new to the stream, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell for all notifications. You got the links to follow Kyle and I right above us, nice and pretty there. Make sure you go to Twitter and follow us on Twitter. Kyle's on TikTok. Kyle's on any of the Chinese social communist party programming that you would like to find.
And they're all there anyway. You might as well enjoy, promote yourself how you can while you can.
So
it's all about branding yourself, as we talked about with Matt. You got to get your name out there, and the only way to do so is be on the popular house. So.
I've got some clothesline and a fire. We'll brand you the next time I see you. Half a bottle of tequila and a tiki torch.
Yeah. All right,
Draw something nice.
Well, you have a great night.
You too.
Don't have too much fun.
So
thanks and gig 'em and God bless.
Thanks to all the listeners for coming in tonight. Thank you to Matt Handy for joining us tonight. Thank you so much to everybody. Thank you to Molly, my wife, because she's the one who booked this interview and she's the one who found Matt for us. So special thank you to her, and thank you to all of our dear listeners. Please continue to follow us and continue to watch us wherever you may find us. And thank you so much. Have a great night. God bless.
I think I'm going off the deep end. I think I took a left when I should have took a right at the bend. I think I'm looking at the wrong trends. All these different people around me and they're calling me friend. Come on, man.